People want to put something out into the world. People want to produce something in so many different ways. My name is Molly Jones. I am a freelance artist. Art to me is an outlet of expression. I would say my style of art is minimalist, and it's very sort of like illustrative. Most of my artwork is monotone. I actually feel like that's more of an anxiety than it is like a preference. I'm interested in colour, but a lot of colour scares me in terms of how to use it and where to use it. So I try and involve colour where I can, where I think it's appropriate.
Mummy?
Yeah.
Mummy?
Yeah.
Talk loud.
Okay, but Mummy's gonna talk now, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely getting easier to find time to work and create art as my daughter's getting a little bit older. I used to just do it all the time, like any time I had spare time. If I wasn't sort of with friends and family or if I wasn't working, my time would be spent creating. And I think any creative person would probably say the same thing, that it never sort of switches off mentally anyway. So I'm always consuming ideas, I'm always being inspired and sort of thinking of things. But then in terms of like the physical and practical making, after I had my daughter, it kind of all had to stop, which is interesting because I think that's like such a like transformative time in your life. It's probably the time when you need that outlet more than ever to have a piece of you. I've always been massively interested in Greek mythology. I think it comes from actually, I had a really religious upbringing as a child. I went to a Catholic school, I had very Catholic grandparents. My parents went to church every Sunday, so we went to church every Sunday. And there's something about biblical and religious stories, particularly Old Testament stories, of something bigger or a god or higher power, that then naturally as I got older, the stories of Greek gods and Greek mythology fell into the same interest in something bigger than us. I think I do create work solely about women and females, not super intentionally, particularly when I very first started making work in the way that I currently make it. The stories of Greek mythology they were my biggest drive, and obviously there's something in these stories of females within religion, whether they're sort of like saints or religious figures or Greek goddesses or these other worldly beings that completely resonate with womanhood and like being a female. And even though these things are almost alien, these characters are meant to be so incredible and so huge. But actually when you think of the things that women do in our lifetime and the things that we go through and the things that we experience on a monthly basis, or giving birth and having children and raising families, and I think actually that in itself resonates perfectly with this goddess-like being. Who's that? What is that? What is it? What is it? From the 28th of November, I'll be trading at London Illustration Fair. I've done lots of art fairs and art markets, but the majority have been relatively local and quite small scale. This will be the first one that I've done outside of my local area. First one I've ever done in London, and on a much larger scale than I've ever done before. Most of it is like already existing work, so like prints, mostly prints. There's a couple of originals that I haven't sold that I might take with me, and then I've ordered some more tapestry blankets, so they have to go to a weaver's in America and they get put on a loom, and they're coming soon, so that's like done. Just got to wait for them to arrive. So then there's a couple of paintings that I'm going to do, and then that's about it really. I've more got to figure out how I'm going to design the stall and like what it's actually going to look like. Making work purely to sell has changed. I've almost sort of like reverted back to feeling a need to like express in a different way. I'm sort of more determined now than ever to make this into a business and a way of supporting my family, because there's more of a need to do that now that I have a child. Yeah, all of this stuff should come today. This one is a design that I've only ever done digitally. It's never left the iPad. I've never painted it or drawn it, but it's one of my favourite designs. I just love it because it's so strange. This piece sort of like came from various different old folk tales to do with like the Mad March hare, or to do with these accounts of witches turning into hares and stealing breast milk. Or in some traditions, the witch would create a hare and make a hare that would go out and it would steal breast milk, or it would steal people's butter and these like dairy products. And there's like an old legend, if you shot the hare with a silver bullet, you would follow its blood trail back to an old house or a cottage where you'd find an old woman with the same bullet wounds dead on the floor. Nowadays, it's not uncommon for people to live paycheck to paycheck anyway, but at least you know sort of like when you're employed that paycheck is coming. Like it will, even if you really have to struggle for a couple of weeks, like you know the money is coming at the end of the month. The thought and the idea of earning and spending at the same rate, but not knowing where the next money is coming from is really daunting. This one. Yeah. But this is what I mean, this is why I was meant to have the boards, but I think I'm just gonna like try and tape it. On a practical level, like earning and just having to make a living and pay your rent and all the boring side of just having a job. And then on like the deeply personal level of being a creative and trying to sustain that and remain confident in what you're doing and growing and evolving and reflecting who you are as a person. Thank you. That is the goddess Hestia. She's the goddess of hearth and home, the ancient Greek goddess. I feel like today went really well, better than I had anticipated. We actually set up really quickly. Yeah, and it was all good. I'm excited. It's made me more excited for the rest of the weekend.